My brother's mean message ruined my plans. I bawled my eyes out.
Oh, wait. Don't do that.
I have 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, ranging from 28 male, 26 female, 23 male, to me, 20 female. We all live in different states in the United States of America. Background: our family grew up with some problems. Dad was an harmful regular user for a good while. He's doing all right now. Mom was there for us, still tries, but does her share of things that upset various combinations of her children, depending on what it is. She's changed a lot. By the way, this comes from I Prefer Rainbows. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to r/OKStorytime subreddit. So, as a result, a lot of myself and my siblings' personalities have been, in one way or another, shaped by the events during our time at home and after. My brother, who we'll call James, has adopted a sort of mediator personality over the years. He's a 9 in the...
Numerology?
You know what I'm talking about?
I'm a 9. Both of my parents are also 9s.
I'm a 2. It's not numerology.
I'm forgetting what it's called. It's like
Enneagram. I'm a 2. I'm a helper. When we were younger, his end game was just to make everyone stop fighting and be happy. Today, he still tries to be the mediator. He is often successful, but sometimes he is objective to a fault. The usual complaint from me about him is when a situation arises that he should definitely take an emotional position on or make a stand for against in our family, he will usually just completely stay out of it as to avoid sides. This can make me and others feel like he isn't there for us when we have been wronged. He got a good job right out of college and is doing well. So now he also likes to give advice to the point where I've had to ask him to tone it down. All around, he's a good guy, just seems to suppress his emotions sometimes and get a bit cocky from his achievements. My sister, Jess, 26 female, does not have a good relationship with my brother, 28 male, who we'll call Dan. The two of them haven't gotten along for as long as I can remember. Jess had to take on a responsibility when things were going down the drain in our lives, and I think that made her sensitive, hot-tempered at times, and easily defensive. She's just still this way and can be a huge witch if you say something that offends her. Ultimately, she's a really sweet person who has contributed a lot to my life. She's very happy and bubbly. She would be there for anyone. She is just really sensitive and does not like to be lectured. Therefore, it can be a nightmare to be around if she feels offended. It is her way to cope of getting her feelings hurt. The oldest, Dan, has historically led a lot of anger over the events of our past life and the ones that are still affecting us today. My other siblings and I have come to terms with a lot of the things that have happened to us and generally enjoy our lives. OP, I'm gonna need some plots here. I'm just kind of getting the infrastructure. I'm not getting any plot lines here. He has for my whole life been angry and struggling to figure himself out, resulting in a lot of lashing out, name-calling, physical intimidating displays, and scrutiny of everyone who is doing something wrong in his eyes. Currently, Dan is very successful. He has worked very hard for years to get where he is now, which is in a position of employment that is usually occupied by someone twice his age.
Nuclear physicist.
Whoever's writing this is a nuclear physicist because they're like explaining this very well without any context. I don't understand it. He is involved in disorienting amount of extracurriculars. He's constantly busy. He's got a great salary, a great apartment, is in grad school, and is always looking to improve his resume. He doesn't let anyone forget these things, whether on purpose or by accident. His physical aggression and over-the-top actions have passed away down a few years now as a result of getting himself out of a dark place, which was likely caused by the accumulation of our family's problems. During this time, it was just awful to deal with and scary. Now to the main issue with him is his temper. Okay, we got a main issue here?
Temperament. That's our issue. He's a temperamental fella.
He will freak out on all of you for it. He will yell, hang up the phone, and may or may not crap talk you to anyone who will listen on later. He will keep you on the phone, ranting about this or that for an hour if you let him. And when you want to get off the phone, he would more than often than not make you feel bad for it. He constantly wants to know the updates of my life, my plans for jobs, interns, etc. If you don't take his advice, which by itself is usually good and logical, he looks at you like you're an effing up your whole life unless you instead do something that he will approve of. You need to be doing something to further your life all the time. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like me and Dan kind of are the same guy.
Oh, really? I was about to take so many shots at Dan right now.
Go ahead. I feel like the worst possible version of myself is Dan. Because I do feel everything that I do, like when I'm chilling out, hanging out, I can't watch Parks and Rec. I gotta watch a TV show I've never seen before. That is gonna better me as a person. You know, I have a really hard time slowing down, just doing whatever. I feel like I need to like always be doing more for my resume. I don't know how to live life, dude.
Dan's doing the thing where it's like he's got a lot of positives going on. And sometimes you'll meet people like this in your life. And they're not necessarily like evil or like terrible people, but they become very sort of, their perspective becomes narrowed to just basically their own because they've experienced so much success in their own life that they kind of approach things with the perspective of like, well, everyone should want to do what I did because look at where I am now. Like, everything worked out for me, so you shouldn't want that thing that you just said you want. You should want this instead because look at me. And it really just comes from a lack of, I think, understanding that like not everybody wants what you want or what worked for you. Like, it's probably the most common like argument between like parents and children is parents being like, well, you need to do this because you want this, and then the kids don't want that. They're like, you should want that. The kid's like, I don't want this thing that you say I should want. I don't.
Sorry, Grandpa. I don't want to work at the sawmill. Which I'd never had to say that to my grandpa.
Because he does want to work at the sawmill, honestly. He yearns for labor.
You know why? It's because of my freaking grandpa and great grandpa. Every Saturday morning, we would go and cut firewood. And they probably wouldn't go back home until 4. And then guess what they did at 4 o'clock? They went to the garden and picked green beans and maintenance the garden. It's in my blood. I can't help it.
It's in your blood to work. Your workhorse.
In college, I wouldn't do anything on Saturdays, and I would feel like the absolute worst because I'm like, I should be working right now. It was so bad. I think he's a good person deep down. I have come to think he's just incredibly sensitive, maybe even more than the rest of us, and gives us suffocating advice as his way of contributing to our lives, being involved, and making up for the way he has done before. I am the youngest, been through more schools than any of them, and just as many houses. I've got the short end of the stick on a lot of things, and everyone recognizes that, which is saying something considering the things everyone else has to deal with. I'm currently in college, and while I have loans, I'm getting help from mainly my mom and sporadically my dad. The problem is, my 21st birthday is coming up over the summer. I am the last kid to turn 21. All I've been wanting since before we began to actually plan anything was to get all of my siblings in one place, to have a drink with them. No fighting. Take a picture, and have a great memory for when things aren't so great in the future. Something I can be happy about and cherish. This is important to me for the majority of my life as a contributing member of society. You could have just said citizen, man, if we're really going to be working on our vocabulary here.
Well, this isn't the Roman Empire.
But they're a citizen. They literally said they're contributing memory of society. Say you're a citizen, dude. That's the definition of citizen.
This is a prime example of Riley trying not to waste time. Why say more words when few words do trick?
A lot of the terrible things we all had to deal with got worse while my brother and sister were in and out of college, leaving me alone for some of real life changing things. They've all kept in touch, but it is very hard not to have them with me physically. Today, James and I were solidifying our plans to get all the kids together. He has ostracized a lot of the planning with me as we decided to have everyone fly to where he lives. We also decided that instead of having the get-together on my birthday, we were going to plan to have it on his birthday, which is about 2 weeks after mine. I agreed to this because it was on a holiday weekend, giving us an extra day of fun, as well as an additional reason to celebrate. We decided to also include my cousin Jeremy, 28 Mel, who is very close to us. After getting off the phone with James today, he had me call Dan, Jess, and Jeremy to tell them the for sure plan. As they knew the rough plan before, I called Dan first and told him the plan. His response was something like this. Well, that weekend might be the first weekend of classes for me, so I probably won't be able to attend. The other thing is that Grandma is going to sell the house later this year, so Dad wants us to go there. So we could just meet there. And frankly, I have no interest in going to insert city where James lives because it's dirty and smelly.
New York City.
Or Chicago.
Or Chicago, I was going to say that. And don't hate us. I like going to both of those cities, but they are dirty.
I've never been to Chicago.
Oh, you've never been to Chicago? Chicago's less dirty than New York, I think.
I stay away from cities.
I just had to say that to all my New York folks out there. New York City is dirty.
But the water's good.
You know what they do with the trash in New York? When it's trash day and you're a business, where do you put your trash?
They put it in the ocean.
They literally pile it up on the sidewalk.
No, they did a $4 million research about how to use the correct trash cans for them.
No, there's no trash cans.
There are now.
No, I know that they don't, because New York City's so old, the infrastructure, the way it's built, is not designed for trash trucks or trash routes. So a lot of places, just by the nature of how it is built, cannot use dumpsters or like trash pickup like that. So they have to just take all the trash and put it on the sidewalk on the curb. It's crazy.
My response was that I might have classes too, but I'm trying to work it out. So is there anything you could do to work it out? Then he said that he wasn't going to miss classes for that it would send a bad message to those who might be concerned. My response, which was prompted by the insult to where James lived, was fumbled. Well, Dan, not to sound like a brat, I don't think it's always about you sometimes. It wouldn't matter to me if we were meeting in a cardboard box. It's a family thing, and I would just want everyone together. So could we just try to see? Well, I didn't even make it to cardboard before he hung up on me mid-sentence. I didn't even get to surprise him with Jeremy's potential attendance. I sat there for a moment, then called James and told him what happened. We talked for a bit, and a notable point being made that Grandma is Dad's mom and not very pleasant. Jess and Grandma don't entirely speak, and overall, suggesting we go to Grandma's was really out of left field. James said he would call Dan and get him to come around. When I hung up, I saw the text message from Dan I had waiting for me that said, "I'm really effing sick and tired of your nonsense. You're a complete flake, terrible at following up. Frankly, an effing liar. You constantly blow people off when they ask you things or offer you help. You lay around seemingly doing nothing half the effing time and waste all sorts of resources and opportunities. While you whine about money when you're the only kid in the whole family that got any kind of financial support for school, you are a coward towards the world, pisses me off to no end. It's a waste of effing potential. You're not just a brat. You're beyond selfish. You call me at work and then tell me to spend $700 to fly across the country for a weekend to a city I frankly hate on what may be one holiday weekend to potentially skip the first day of classes in my master's degree for a program of study that meets once a week, basically equivalent to 2 weeks of undergrad classes. Then you start telling me I'm being selfish and try to guilt me with family, although it's really just convenient for you and James. You're completely self-centered.
Hey, you can just say you don't want to meet up.
No, we're never like, no is the worst thing they could say.
Yeah, that was way worse than no. That was so overblown. It's like, just be like, I really am not going to go.
Yeah, just say that.
Also, I have to point out, when we were talking about the dirty cities, we left out Los Angeles.
Yeah, Los Angeles is pretty dirty.
It's disgusting.
Especially Hollywood. I don't like being around Hollywood.
Hollywood? Dude, I lived right off Hollywood Boulevard. I'll never live there again because of how freaking filthy disgusting it was.
I'm going to keep going. We're not even halfway done. I was bawling for an hour. I called my boyfriend, who then tried to find the words to help me. He wound up saying that he thought Dan's behavior was learned from my father and thinks it's interesting that he usually puts crap on my mom and Jess, not James and my dad, even though my dad is the root of many of our family's problems. Jan's justification for not crapping on my dad is that he is at least trying to make up for the terrible things he did now. His main source of helping now is by giving us money here and there. He often says, when I come to some money, I'm going to help all my kids. Paying for college was something I never wanted any of you to do, which is why he helps me with money now. Anyway, when James eventually texted saying, so Dan really likes the idea, the dates may work for him, but he's not yet sold on James City. However, I'm putting a good case for him to change his mind. Let me keep working on him and see what comes of it.
For God's sakes, dude. No one's asking you to move there to the city for the rest of your life. It's a week.
Dude, I'm just seeing this man's misogynistic.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like, here's it from someone else, and now it's a great idea. When he hears it from OP, and she's the worst, she's self-centered, and how do you know this? And you're just trying to sabotage my educational career. And then he's like, actually, that's a pretty sick idea. But I'm still not sold on the city.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so, I don't know. He sounds really obnoxious.
Yeah. Also, hot take, OP sounds obnoxious because of how formal they are. This is hard.
This whole story is a little obnoxious.
I then sent him a screenshot of the text messages. This is the conversation that followed. James, he says things like that once in a while to me. Definitely not defending him. That's a little intense. Definitely uncalled for and untrue. I'm sorry. He should certainly apologize. Like I said, he does like the idea and wants to do something, but I don't know if you want to do something with him anymore after that, unless he apologizes. Me. You read over his messages a few times and tell me how you would have handled it. James, I agree. Uncalled for and too much.
Dude, James hit the nail on the head right there.
Me. None of it should have been said whatsoever. To say it was too much suggests it was a good amount at some point. James, you are correct. Shouldn't have been said at all. I'm sorry. I told him it was effed. He needs to apologize. Me. I appreciate that. But personally, what I am supposed to do, I feel like with Dan, we all have subconsciously accepted his typical a-hole behavior as normal, and only when he really goes over the top we say, because it's Dan. But the fact is, I can't think of the last time you or Jess even said a fraction of that to me. If one of your friends said that to you, you would stop being their friend. I can't stop being his sister. So what am I supposed to do? Accept a forced, likely faked half-blood apology to keep at peace that obviously isn't really even there if stuff like this happens with him regularly? Which I realized tonight is almost always exclusively directed at women and the family.
Oh, you were right.
I don't think anyone has the right to answer here because most people aren't/shouldn't be prepared to deal with this kind of atrocious situation. The rest of the conversation was James agreeing that we tend to move on after Dan does something like this, that he doesn't believe it's generally exclusive, and that I think he is way too old to be getting away with such hurtful things. I said that this wasn't an accidental witch comment. He hung up on me and planned it out.
OP just said like, hey, so I think we need to stop just being like, it's Dan. Because if anyone else on earth had sent something like this to us, we would never speak to them again. And James is like, yeah, you're right, because that actually was super over the line.
A couple of hours later, Dan sent me an email. I thought he was apologizing, but nope. It was an email to all the siblings addressing the trip as a whole, suggesting other places we could go, calling it a siblings trip that was also for celebrating birthdays. Our birthdays were the purpose of the gathering. It wasn't even supposed to be a trip. I just don't know what to do. This was the worst thing Dan has ever said to me, but I feel like if I don't forgive him, the whole trip is going to be ruined. This was supposed to be a happy thing. I mean, I said one thing and he lost it. I don't think I've ever been ripped down like that. What he said warranted by me saying that it wasn't all about him all the time. My brother, sister, and mom all think that it was totally uncalled for. But when it comes to Dan, I second guess myself all the time. What should I do? Honestly, probably get the other siblings involved. Don't include Dan. Invite Jeremy. Jeremy can be Dan for you, the cousin.
I think what really needs to happen here is an attempt at some kind of intervention. Because, like, from what he said to you, like, Dan clearly needs to apologize. And your forgiveness of him can happen outside of his apology, and then you can just reassess your relationship is at with him, and you can let that go. That's one thing. But, like, he needs to be able to say, what I did was wrong, and I am sorry to you. And if his intense anger is something that hasn't changed or hasn't really gotten better, then I think all the siblings should get together and be like, hey, we all saw what you said to OP and we all agree it's unacceptable.
Unacceptable. That's just crazy to say that to your sibling. After the whole thing happened, I gave it a few days to think about what I was going to do. And I decided for that the time being, I didn't want anything to do with Dan. I also decided not to include him in the planning process until he apologized, called it, and he never did. Then we weren't going to include him. He has done a lot of terrible things to the family, to each of us individually, and all of us as a whole. He has a lot of emotional problems that I hope he can one day get help for. So after those few days passed, my brother James, 23 Mel, and I talked on the phone for a long time. I told him my decision, and he encouraged me to reconsider. He said that while he understood I was hurt, Dan has come a long way in the past few years and is doing extensively better now than he ever has. He continued to say he is just easily offended. He really does want to be a part of the sibling get-together, and he keeps talking about it. I told him that I think it isn't right for him to put up with Dan constantly negative, harmful, and hurtful attitude towards anyone and everyone who gets on his bad side just because he has come a long way.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sorry. I just really have to say that's like being like, well, he's not breaking my legs anymore. He's just breaking my ankles.
Still a part of your legs. His behavior not being as bad as before shouldn't mean that he gets to do whatever he wants and now will be tolerated. I went on to say that I have been talking to Dan a lot more all year, and every time I do, he uses me as an emotional one-twoing bag. He badmouths our mother, how she's an evil money stealer, and he hopes he never has to see her or talk to her again. He says our sister is wasting her life and everything she does is wrong. Even badmouths James, who has historically always been on his side. Even when we give him good advice, even though he does great financially and academically, he still finds reasons to be miserable all the time and puts that on anyone else that will listen. I told James about how when Dan calls, if I don't answer the phone every time, or if I'm in the middle of something and don't have time to listen to him rant for 45 minutes straight, that isn't an exaggeration, he will sit and rant nonstop until you cut him off. He literally makes you feel bad for it. He says things like, okay, it's just I don't have any other support systems and I really wanted to talk about this, but fine, whatever. Every time. It's manipulative, not sincere.
Excuse me, sir. That's what therapists are for.
There have been instances where I have company or I'm at the library and he will keep talking until I literally have to hang up on him. I even offered to text him, but he says he really doesn't feel like texting. He wanted to talk. He is very rude and makes me feel like he doesn't even enjoy talking with me. He just likes to hear himself speak and know someone is listening to it. I genuinely believe that it's all about him. Dude, I know someone like this, and I literally cannot stand them.
It's not me, right?
It's definitely not you. This guy I'm thinking about, dude, it's bad. It's really bad.
Unknowingly being this guy is one of my greatest fears. Is just being this guy that day. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh. Second time I ever met Dakota, he was having an existential crisis, literally. And I was talking with my girlfriend, and it was pretty late at night. And me and Angie were hanging out.
Don't say it was pretty late at night. It was not late. It was early in the party.
No, it was not. It was midnight. Dude, everyone was gone and everyone was wrapping up and you were there.
This was at the beginning of the party. I know that for a fact.
Anyways, it felt late to me. That's my truth. Anyways, I told James that he does it to everyone. And no one ever stands up to him out of fear of his reactions. No one wants to deal with the fallout from denying his excessive behavior. I am admitted to him that although I can't speak for everyone sometimes, I feel like he takes his mediator role so seriously that when Dan has really hurt me, he doesn't have my back because he's trying so hard to be neutral. He told me I made a lot of great points and he would understand if I decide not to talk to Dan anymore until he apologizes. Additionally, I called my sister Jess and talked to her about my decision, and she went on board with it. I mentioned in my last post about her and Dan don't get along, mostly because of Dan having treated her horribly for years. She admitted to feeling some frustration over the fact that she has been trying to stand up to him for years. Whenever she does, any combination of us will tell her just to let it go because we want Dan to stop. I apologize for ever making her feel like I wasn't there for her or I didn't support her and that her efforts were inspiring. We did end on a solid note. I also talked to my mother about the whole thing. Who else did you start to talk to, OP? Your dog? Your grandma?
I talked to every person on my LinkedIn.
Dan's neighbor?
Talked to everyone in my Google Plus circles.
And she told me that I was making a big mistake. She said that deciding not to include him in the gathering was a big thing to do, and I couldn't take it back once I did, and that the consequences would be irreversible. I reminded her that Dan has been treating her like crap personally for years. And I wish she wouldn't still allow him to walk all over her in hopes that one day he would treat her well the way he did once. She agreed that he does treat her terribly, but still hoped I would include him in the gathering since she loves all her children. I think she can't handle this situation. I haven't spoke to Dan since the blow up. It's been about a month, and he hasn't tried to contact me whatsoever. He's talked to everyone else, though he has been talking to my mother, which really bothers me considering what he always says about her and how he actively treats her. At this point, I'm really not sure what to do. I've sort of been coasting for this whole month. No one has really addressed anything or talked about it. I focused on other things, and it's been nice to not have to deal with all the stress that comes from talking to Dan. But I do miss him. I miss his voice. and his input. Should I call Dan? Should I bring it up to my siblings? I continue to talk to everyone else just fine. I feel like we are just avoiding the Dan issue, but as the date draws nearer, it's still a few months away, we will probably have to start talking about it again because he made it clear a long time ago that the gathering was important to us. I keep thinking about what my mom said, in that if I decide to take such a big stand against Dan, that the action could cause permanent damage to our relationship. But then I remembered that it shouldn't be my job to bend over backwards to keep a peace that must not even be there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with OP. Like, the mom is being like, oh, well, you could potentially damage your relationship, but it's like Dan's doing it because he's holding the relationship hostage with his potential reaction.
Thinking about this person, I'm just like, why are you even entertaining it? This kind of story is what bothers me.
This is your nightmare trigger story?
This is my nightmare story. This is the worst story I've ever read or thought about, frankly.
It's time for a sibling intervention. I would not do this solo.
Me neither. Thinking about it, never talking to Dan again breaks my heart. But I'm exhausted. Me too, OP. I mean, I go through cycles of anger, sadness, happiness, and everything in between. But I feel like Dan is angry all the time. I don't understand how he's hopped up on something. And by the way, you guys can be hopped up on all the freaking OK Storytime stories we've ever freaking read. And there is a magical quest you can go on. All you got to do is click that favorite button for your podcast of choice. Search up these magical words in the search bar.
Okay, story time.
And boom, there is the gold of riches and glory of all the relationship advice you can take on as a person. Just press play.
That's you pressing the button. For some reason, it's analog and not a touch screen, and it goes, but you've got a whole big setup here. You've got a contraption. You've got a doohickey that plays OK Storytime.
Dude, that would be such a good doohickey. I'm going into this story. I think we all know how we feel. I am on the edge.
Because he wants to talk about gooning.
Every time we speak, and I know why my other family members feel the same. He really has come a long way, though, and no matter what, he has a huge heart. He has admitted to and apologized for a lot of things, but it's hard to give that any real weight when his bad behavior has never actually stopped. I know he loves us and just shows it in a weird way, and we love all of him no matter what, and it's so hard to do anything drastic. Thank you, everyone, for your honest opinions about my actions and everyone else's as well. And that is the end of that story. Let's go. Wow.